You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 316. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Today, I have such a special treat for all of us, myself included. I have former Congresswoman Marie Newman from Illinois joining me. She has written a book, Made from Scratch, and she has shared how she ran for office, was in office, and it included having an office across from Marjorie Taylor Greene and being at the Capitol during January 6th. We are talking about all of that, including how you and I can be more involved, how we can make a difference. And Marie has some incredible tips that I didn't even know. Hi, Marie.
Hi, Michelle.
I am so excited to talk to you. I have read your book, so I feel like I know you uh, from the beginning, but I am fascinated by your career, how you've gotten to where you are. So I cannot wait to talk to you all about it. Can you introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Sure. I'm Marie Newman. I'm the former Congresswoman from Illinois 3, which is the south and southwest suburbs, southwest side of the city in Chicago. So I was born and raised in that area. I started out my career in marketing and advertising, worked my way up to partner executive, then started my own business because I had trouble getting childcare. So I had two babies and started my own consulting business, which grew rapidly. And throughout all that time, I've been very interested in service to others. And so I've been a volunteer probably since I was 6 years old. And that never left me. I wrote a book about anti-bullying and helped solve the problem in Illinois, worked legislatively as an advocate for anti-bullying, passed a law here in the state of Illinois, built an anti-bullying manual, and then ultimately went to Obama's summit. And during all of this time, this 20-year period, I was also working in the gun reform movement. So I was an activist with Moms Demand Action and other groups. And then folks, I guess it was 9 or 10 years ago, started asking me to run for office. And to which I said, you are high. I've never even run for student council. You are high. Like, come on. That doesn't even make sense. But then I did. 2016 rolled around. And that night when Trump was elected, it hit me like a bag of bricks. I tell the story of the next morning, which really propelled me to run for office. Was my daughter came downstairs, and my daughter is a trans woman, and she said, "Will I be safe, Mom?" And of course I said, we are going to do everything. We are going to protect you and all of that. But normally I would say, I got you. Don't worry. This is fine, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I chose a more real term, which was Dad and I are going to protect you no matter what. So, then ran for office in 2018, lost by 2 points, very close. Then ran in 2020 again against the same guy who was anti-woman, anti-immigrant, anti-healthcare, and won by 4 points in a field of 4 men. And so then I was Congresswoman for 2 years, and then I got redistricted out, as happens every 10 years in our country. Census happens, and then we have to reapportion. Illinois lost a district, so mine was the one that got chopped up. And then since then, I was a CEO of a nonprofit and wrote this book. And then I do some healthcare consulting, some political consulting, and I have another book coming out next year, and a bunch of little projects.
Just a little busy. Yeah. A little busy, a little accomplished. It's amazing. Congratulations. I love that your story of running the first time and then the second time the politics involved in the politics, it's so dirty. You ran against a guy who was just disgusting. And I know that we see that in every election. I know I was active in our mayoral campaign here in San Jose.
Yeah.
And the moment the opponent started lashing out and being nasty, I was like, oh, and it's a woman. And I think that almost made me more mad, that I expected more from a woman who was a mother. And yet our candidate, male father, he held his high ground and was clean and kind. And I was like, I'm going to stick with you, because if you're going to be gross, then
Yeah.
that just tells me who you are as a human being. And how do you represent the rest of us if you're just that dirty and gross?
It is very telling, right? And I made a policy that I fought viciously on policy and votes and your platform, right? But I never ever went across at someone's character, their family, or anything personal. Like, it was just always on policy. And I wish everybody had that policy of just worrying about policy and not all the other stuff.
What would you say, as your daughter came to you in 2016, and I feel like in 2024 it was almost, it is worse.
Yeah,
It was worse
it's
to
a lot
wake
worse.
up, and I feel like 2016, and for those 4 years we went, oh wow, this really is shitty.
Yeah,
But I feel like we're on a whole nother world. We are in
a new
something
league,
else.
a new universe, a new league. Yeah, this is,
Yes.
yeah.
And
I mean,
so if you felt that with your daughter and she was coming to you in 2016, what is that like now
yeah,
for your daughter, for your family
yeah.
to be grappling with?
I've advised her to not leave the state because we have the best policies in Illinois for LGBTQ plus people, and while there's probably 7 states that it's very safe to be LGBTQ plus, um, even there, like I've just advised her not to go anywhere. That's how sad it is right now.
It's so sad.
And likewise,
It's speechless.
I say the same thing for my friends that have green cards or visas or any of that. I'm like, I would not go anywhere right now. I
Hmm.
would not, because they are they know more than they have everyday access to every database now because Musk opened everything up illegally. They can find anybody that's doing. I mean, I am seeing I have cookies on a lot of the things that I do. And it's at first I thought, oh well, that's ridiculous. They're not surveilling us. Well, we don't know that. They
Hmm.
probably are.
I'm convinced I'm on a list. I tell my husband all the time, like, I know I'm on a list. I post too much. I say too much. I'm sure I'm on someone's list at this point.
Right. Oh,
What that will mean, I don't know. I was lucky
right.
enough to be born here, but that doesn't mean anything these days.
Right. It doesn't. I mean, that's what I mean. Even going, like I have the other leg of my book tour starting, and I'm like, I mean, they're very democratic cities with the exception of one. So I'm not that worried, but, I'm thinking, But then I'm also worried about the FAA is run by a reality star. So that's very
Right.
worrisome to me.
All of it. There's nothing good that goes on right now.
Yeah.
But I also want to talk about your experience as a congresswoman. I love that your office was right across from one of the one of the biggest scoundrels, the nastiest human beings, who I am still baffled that she is in office. And yes, everyone, we're talking about MTG.
Yeah. I always say God has a very funny sense of humor with me. Like, really, like the funniest things have happened. And that was the ultimate in irony, right? Is that an anti bullying expert was placed across the hall offices from the one of the worst bullies in Congress and one of the most small minded, sad, evil, strident, racist, misogynist, female misogynist, racist, bigoted, hateful people. Like, really, like it was so funny to me. Like,
Can you share this story with everyone about what you did with the flags? And I love this whole part of your book of seeing what it was like being
it will all
in Washington.
surreal, right? Because it is a freak show 24/7 there. I'm just being honest with you because there's lots of sane people that do good things on both sides of the aisle, and there's lots of great leaders. But the ridiculous stuff that happens around publicity and being the importance of being on cable and the importance of being at press conference, being in frame, like all those things are crazy. But I'll tell you that story first, and then I'll tell you another one that illustrates it, the hunger for publicity all the time. So MTG across the way from me. It's early February. We're about to pass the Equality Act, right, out of the House. So I am getting ready to go give that vote. I do a little video for my constituency saying I'm so excited and proud to be voting for the Equality Act today. These are the three things that it does, and I'm so excited. So I then get a call or a message on my official phone saying that, oh, we have to delay the vote. There's been a motion to adjourn. And I was like, who would do that? And so the motion to adjourn is a tactic in the opposition party where you throw down a motion to adjourn and then business stops for like 6 to 8 hours. So it just screws up the legislative day. And then you have to usually vote late at night. It's just like a kind of mean thing to do or to slow down the agenda of the other side, right? So she did that, and that just kind of sent me to the, because we'd put a lot of work into this bill, and I did a lot of work around it for years prior to getting to the House. And then when I got there, so I kind of had my limits. So my comms director was like, Marie, why don't you grab your trans flag? You haven't put it up yet. So it ended up that I got the flag, and you have 3 flag holders outside of your office in the Capitol campus. And so I had the Illinois flag and the United States flag, and I had one open. So I put the trans flag in there, and very proudly we did a video. And at the end I go like this, and she went cray on that. Like she was so I still think this is funny because I have this vision of her. She went out and got a sign made saying there are only 2 genders, period. Right. And so I just have this visual of her marching to Kinko's or FedEx Express, like, I need a sign that says blah, blah, blah. It was like, oh my God, it's so funny. Like the thought of a congresswoman doing that makes me laugh so hard. So then she plasters it up herself and does a video and calls me some very unnice names. And I was like, okay, whatever. Then I started getting calls from every major outlet, print, internet, TV, cable, network, all of it. And I was like, you guys, come on. She's very small-minded person. Like, come on. She went on and it went viral everywhere. So my video went viral, her viral, like all of it was ridiculous. So then I decided, okay, I've got to kind of put a stop to this because I don't want this to spin out of control. So I went on, I think with Jake Tapper and then, I don't know, Rachel Maddow and somebody else and said, look, I'm very proud of my daughter. I'm very proud of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm very proud of the trans community. And for her to say what she said, because she called me a groomer, and that's like the nicest thing she could say about me, and a bunch of disgusting things, that says more about her. So I just want to put down for the record, I wanted her to see my daughter's community, love them, and embrace them, because I don't like it when people say, we should tolerate LGBT. No, we should love, respect, and embrace our neighbors, everybody in and nobody out. And so I did that and I thought it was over. Well, the next day it went on for like 2 weeks. And I was like, and I kept saying no. She kept on, because she's, I'll say this term. I don't really love this term, but it fits her. She's just a publicity whore, right? So just gets in front of every camera that she can and calls me every name in the book. And I was like, I really don't care. I just kept you can call me whatever. I know I'm a good mom and I know I'm a good congressperson. She can do whatever she wants. So that was just
it. Triggered, obviously. It's incredible. And I would hope that her constituents see that this is what she's doing. She's not fighting for anybody at home or rights or making the country better. She has this agenda, and this is what she chose to focus on for 2 weeks.
I think they like
and then some.
I think that's the problem, is that
obviously that's how she got voted in.
Yeah, her district is this very, there are whole parts of the country that have had this hammered into the head that they don't even know what the Republicans stand for. They just have had it hammered into their head to own the libs, whatever you can do. And anything the libs like, we shouldn't like. And they can't even name what that is, but they, and I think they're learning the lesson of that now, is that so they were lied to by this president. They were lied to by their members of Congress and the Senate that, and now they're going to cut Medicaid. 40% of the people in this nation receive health care from Medicaid. And that's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt real bad,
Hmm.
if that goes through. Hopefully it won't. Like, knock on wood, their sanity rises. They're voting on it over the next couple of days. Let's hope that that doesn't happen. But yeah, it's a heartbreak.
And I wonder what is it going to take for all of these people who voted not just the first time, voted for this the second time.
Mhm.
It's, the whole, oh, the woke side, we're all empathetic. And yet I have this conversation at pickup every day with another mom. We're going, it's going to have to take something happening to these individuals because they don't care, obviously, what's happening to their neighbors,
Yeah.
to other Americans. It will have to actually hurt them because empathy is apparently a bad thing.
Yeah. I think that's probably not unrealistic to think that. I think they're going to have to feel some pain. But I will say this. So if we look at the last round of polls that came out last week that were put Trump, depending on the issue, at somewhere between the mid 30s and the low 40s on every issue. And then collectively, he's like at 41%. That's the lowest of any president's first quarter ever. So I think they're already catching on. You lied to us. You continue to lie to us. And I don't like your policies. I didn't know what they exactly were, but I don't like them. I'm already seeing prices go up. I'm seeing that our partners around the world and our allies are very angry with us and now you've put us in a trade war. So it's jeopardizing not just the cost of goods, it's also jeopardizing our security, our national security. So I
Mhm.
think people are catching on. So I think that this is just going to be a constant pounding, Michelle, of where people see every day, wow, I don't recognize this country and I want it back. So what's interesting is I do a lot of speeches, right? So since the beginning of January, I've probably done 25 speaking engagements, and people always ask me these things. And it's like, what I see is a slow pivot happening, and I do see it happening, is that um, the folks that we would call independents have really realized, wow, there is no quick fix. And when someone says, I'll fix it, but they have no plan, I probably shouldn't listen to them. I think they're realizing that, right? Um, so here we are. And I think it's going to be a constant pounding, and they will turn around and we will have an opportunity in 26. But on the other end of the pendulum, the Democrats haven't done a great job of protecting us, fighting hard. I would say there's probably 10 that are out there all the time doing great things.
Mhm.
Um, but from our Democratic leadership in the House and the Senate, there's been basically zero. And I'm very, very upset with that. Like I will just say that and some of them are very good leaders. I think Hakeem Jeffries is a very good leader. I don't know why he's not leading right now. I don't understand it.
I
The
feel like
tone.
he's starting to
I wish I
he's
saw a
getting.
sign. I don't see any signs. His big idea was to have a cost of living week, and I was like, what is that even? Like, that's so stupid. I can't even.
It feels like nobody's doing anything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
What is
talking.
working, I will tell you, is what AOC and Tim Walz and Rokana and others are doing, having these town halls. Pete Buttigieg are having these town halls where they're answering real hard questions, and people are flocking. So
Mhm.
these are, and then the day we had the big rally, which was on April 5th, um, we thought we were going to have 1.5 million in the streets. We had 5.5 million people. So people, and I hear in those crowds when I go to those protests, they're like, well, I used to vote for him, but not anymore. This is crazy. He's
So
ruining
what
our country.
what do we do as you're a citizen, you are a former congresswoman, you have your ear to the ground, you know all of this. What do we do?
Mhm.
Because I feel like as a regular person,
Yeah.
as someone who's talking to other moms, to other parents, to other people in the community, we're being told call, make your phone calls. And yet it feels, especially I'm in California, so
Yeah.
it's a blue state. My reps
Right.
are, Adam Schiff, Padilla at Panetta. They're all voting the way, there was one instance I think that Schiff approved somebody and I was like, buddy, no.
Yeah.
And since then he's fallen in line. But what can we do? What do we
Yeah.
do?
So, um, call Republican leadership. So we put pressure on our own Democratic representatives, and you should probably do one round of those calls per month. But the more important calls are weekly. Is that you need to call John Thune and John Barrasso those are the two leaders of the Republican Party in the Senate. And so you just go to the ussenate.gov, look up John Thune. He's the majority leader, and then John Barrasso is the second in command. They are leaders. They must take your calls. So they can't say, oh, you're not in my constituencies. I'm said, no, they're leaders. You have to listen to me and tell them, if you take away any part of Medicaid, any part of Medicare or Social Security, I will work every day to vote you out, every single minute of every day. So I don't recommend you touch any of those entities. Is there waste and fraud and everything? There's waste and fraud in my house. My dog steals food. Come on. There's waste and fraud everywhere. Shut up. Of course, we can get rid of waste and fraud, and we can address it through Congress, and we can hire people that actually know what they're not doing. And then these little Doge rats who literally are taking a ledger, like pretend this is a ledger, going, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, that thing sounds weird. It's got women in it, or it's got DEI in it. Like, let's take that thing out. They're literally doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and then Xing out whole agencies. So let's tell them that, if you take away John Thune, John Barrasso, if you take away Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, we will all work every day to vote you out. We will call, we will write, we will protest, we will do everything. So that's call Republican leaders in the Senate. And then in the House, it's the U.S. House Speaker, which is Michael Johnson. Call him. You can call Steve Scalise. He's second in command in the House on the Republican side. Call those people and tell them, if you take those three things away, oh my God, so sorry, but you are gone. You are so gone. We will vote you out in a New York minute. So that's important to do in terms of calls. Go to the protests. So look how powerful the Tesla protests were. Mm-hmm. Tesla net income, not even top line, but net income went down by 71% in 3 months because we protested out in front of those dealerships. I did 3 of them. And so as a result of that, Tesla board said, hey, Musk, you got to either start running your company or figure it out, but you're not staying in DC. So what happened last week? He ran out of DC with the tail between the legs, right? We did that. We as an electorate did that. We were powerful. Amazon has a 9% decrease in sales. Target was down 2 months ago, $16 billion in sales. This past month, I think it was more like 19 billion. Foot traffic is down by 40%, 40.
Yeah.
So those 3 huge companies were highly affected because we protested and we boycotted. That works. So calling works, boycotting works. So what else can be done? We can tell our story. Tell our one story about someone you know and love that was affected, that could be affected by a Medicaid cut, a Social Security cut, or a Medicare cut. So literally everyone in the nation has one story about one of those 3 things. So 40% of the nation is insured by Medicaid. 97% of folks that are, 98% of folks that are over 65 use Medicare. So right there, that's the whole country, right?
Right.
And then obviously Social Security, we all have a Social Security number and we need it to be protected, right? So tell your story to a friend who doesn't understand what Trump is doing to the country. Say, my mom is in hospice care and she's not going to be able to have her care if Medicaid is taken away. My dad is on Medicare, and if they cut Medicare, he has cancer. Or tell the story that's already happened. And this is a reality for me. I have a dear friend that was in a cancer trial. Her trial was stopped because the NIH funding was stopped, and she has no hope now. None. Zero. So tell your one story to your one friend who is either straight up MAGA or is an independent that made a boo-boo. And don't scold them and don't recite data to them. I will kill you in your sleep if you recite data. I swear to God, like, it does not work. But do tell them your story, your powerful story.
I love this. I'm learning so much. I had no idea that we could call the leaders, because
Oh
I've
yeah.
only heard,
Oh
you
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
call someone who's not your rep because they won't
Yeah.
take your call. It doesn't count. That's amazing
Call
information right
them,
there
call them
alone.
and tell them. And if they don't take your call, because occasionally you'll get a young staffer that doesn't know what they're talking about, just say, okay, then I'm going to write all over every social media that you're not taking my call when you're a leader in the US Senate and I am your constituent. And I'm going to write letters and I'm going to tell every reporter I can get my hands on. So
I love this. I want to know, you went in and you ran for Congress. You have gained so much knowledge. What was that like for the learning curve? Because I think that, I know that we need more people out there running for office. We need
yeah,
more women. We need more moms.
sure.
And I know that childcare is an issue. There's so many issues that affect us that prevent us from even running. And
Right.
then I always think, oh, I don't have the knowledge of like how it all works and the ins and the outs. And yet then I look at someone like MTG and I'm like, that woman doesn't know what she's doing. I could run circles around her. I'd figure it out.
Right. And really, I'll tell you, there's a few jobs in the world that no one has ever or can be qualified for. Um, you can have some credentials and some qualifications, but you're never fully qualified for any part of government because you haven't done it before, right? It's not like you were a marketing VP at a beauty care company and then you went over to as a marketing VP at a healthcare company. Just different products, right?
Mm-hmm.
With if you run for office, you've never run a campaign before. Like you've never run a campaign before. That's a whole new job, right? That's a whole new job. You're
Yeah.
building a small business. A campaign is a small business. So you're an entrepreneur. You're starting out this business, and you're learning policy. You're learning how politics works. You're learning who to network with. And then you're learning what, most importantly, if you're doing it right, the most important thing you're doing is learning what your constituents need. So when I ran for office the first time and the second time I won, the secret sauce is that the first time I had 280 meet and greets inside of a year. The second time I did 343 meet and greets. And I sat down and said, what is bothering you? What can I do for you? How can I help? But tell me what your problems are in very intricate terms so I understand them. And then I shut my pie hole and I took notes. And then I built legislation and passed legislation. And that's what I did on rinse, wash, repeat.
So we can all do it.
Yeah.
That's what you're telling me. Just do it.
There's no, oh my God. Yeah. Like, please. Yeah.
And then I want to get to where you were on January 6th too, because it is such a story. I'm sure you're asked all the time once people find out where exactly you were and what that experience was like, because most of us watched it on TV. And I remember standing in my family room, my jaw was just dropped. And then there were tears, and it was a scary moment to simply witness on TV, but you were there.
Yeah. It's really funny because I think I even say this in the book, when you're part of history and you're in a historic moment, you don't realize you are until much later. And then it really hits you. And that happened to me for sure. Like you're just getting through that day, right? Like you're just trying to keep your staff safe and all of the stuff, right? So at first it did seem like just a really big, important protest coming from the other side. And, I'm a big fan of free speech and protest. Like it works on both sides. We definitely should. And so I was like, disagree with all you people, but go you, right? And we had to take some very specific precautions. So the leaders of the House and the Speaker of the House told all people, when you're coming in that morning, there's going to be quadruple the security around the Capitol campus. You're going to have to get credentialed 5 times instead of twice. You can't wear your congressional pin because they were fearful that there were people with guns running around DC just shooting people. And so then they said, if you can be driven in and then take the tunnels underneath, so you don't have to walk very far and be exposed to people. Because look, I walked outside my apartment that day. I was only 6 blocks from the Capitol, and I saw wild people, running around with big guns, and like it was crazy town, right? So I get to the Capitol campus. We go through the credentialing process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we get up to my office and we talk about, okay, let's have an exit plan just in case, right? So then I'm going back, and that day was dedicated to certifying the election. So that day, all 50 states have to get certified, and you do it because it was COVID. We had to do like a couple states at a time, and you had groups of legislators going in, being socially distanced and masked, voting, and it took a really long time. So fast, it's the crowd is getting bigger and angrier, and they're getting closer and closer. At one point, and everybody in their congressional offices had 3 TVs in a couple of the rooms, and so I had, I think, C-SPAN on, which is the internal television center, and then CNN, and I think MSNBC on, and then I would flip to Fox once in a while, and they were getting closer and closer, and then they started to scale the walls, and my husband is calling, swearing a blue strike. Are they protecting you? Oh my God, they're getting in. And then, it was getting worse and worse. I had, I probably got 300 or 400 texts and calls that day saying, "Are you okay?" And so I was trying to respond to everybody so no one would worry, right? My kids are crying, all of that. So it gets to be about 2:30 in the afternoon, and I just had voted for 2 of the states to certify them, and I'm coming back, and I'm the only one in one of the tunnels underneath the Capitol. These tunnels are built so that the members of Congress can go to and fro to vote quickly, and not have to go outside and in that way. So they were built, I don't know, 120 years ago, but they're huge. It's like a big airplane hangar, right? So I'm in there, nobody's with me because it's COVID, and we're going, in small groups back and forth, and nobody's there. And all of a sudden, and I'm kind of in a bubble, thinking about kind of the significance of the day, right? And someone screams, "Congresswoman!" And I was like, and it was, a Capitol Police guy, and he said, he comes up to me and he caught up to me and he said, "Okay, ma'am, we're going to have to move very quickly. We're going to have to run and walk. Do you want to take your shoes off?" And I was like, in my head, I'm like, I've been running in heels for 30 goddamn years. I said, "No, let's go." And so we ran the probably a total of 8 or 9 blocks back to my office. And he had to go to another group. He was called to another group. And then another officer came up and said, "Ma'am, I know you're a small person, but is anyone bigger in there? Can you throw some furniture across your door once you get in?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And so we did that. I go in, I slam the door, and I just remember, like, because whenever I'm super scared, I go to humor, so I close the door really quickly and I look at everybody. I'm looking at, 7 very sunshiny 20-something faces of my staffers, and I'm like, "So do we have any wine? Because I really, really could use a glass of wine." And so then we prepared a tragedy plan, if you will. There's a go bag in everybody's office. We had that already. And I kept everybody near and dear, made sure everybody was busy. I gave them tasks because the worst thing you can do is not have people be busy when they're scared. So I gave them all specific assignments so they had to keep critical thinking and not worry about their fear, right? So it kept getting worse and worse and worse. We were told to stop voting. Voting stopped. And then we found out that someone breached the chamber, right? And shots were fired. Mm-hmm. And that's when my family went crazy, and I'm trying to assure them, like, it's fine, it's fine. So they had tried to get into my specific office building, and I was on a list of 40 people that they wanted to kill that day. And so everybody is crazed right now by this time, and I'm like, okay, I feel like we're safe. Like they didn't keep coming into our office. They concentrated on the Cannon office building and the actual Capitol, right? So we're getting word that they're crashing into Speaker Pelosi's office, which is a huge apparatus. It's like 20 offices in one, and it's a really, really big place. We know staffers are holed up with furniture in one of the rooms, not talking, and try to communicate with the police, right? Then we started hearing that, they tried to kill Pence, and they scooped him off the stage and put him in a panic room. There's these rooms in the bottom of the Capitol that only Secret Service can get to. they brought him down there. They brought Pelosi down there, and Steny Hoyer, and Mitch McConnell, Schumer, the whole 9 yards, right? Then we hear that Trump won't allow any other backup recruits come. So like we couldn't bring in the National Guard because the rule is the president has to ask for the National Guard. And he kept on saying, no, I don't want them here. Even though the Capitol Police and the DC Police were outgunned 7-1 and outpersoned 7-1. So finally, someone talked, I think it was Pence and some others talked Trump into allowing the National Guard, the Virginia National Guard, to come in, and then the Maryland National Guard. So they came in, so they were able to solve the perimeter problem and get everybody pushed back by, I think, like about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And we got the word that we're going to start voting again. Mm-hmm. So then, we were heavily guarded walking to and from the Capitol, but we started voting again, and we voted till I think 4 or 5 in the morning the next morning, and then all went home for a couple hours to sleep, and they came back and had another legislative day. So, but what I didn't know is that like there were all these stories, right? There were people, a very senior member of Congress had just had knee surgery, and she was with her name is Pramila Jayapal, and she was with 2 other members, a former CIA agent and a former FBI agent. They had the firemen carry her over their shoulders down 4 flights of stairs in the Capitol because that marble is really hard and they're big and they're slippery, right? And so they just had to carry her, right? So thank God they're, these amazing, strong women. But that was one of 100 stories. And I was like, and then there are people that were incredibly scared. They were in broom closets hiding from the crowd. Because these guys were running through the Capitol, both the Senate and the House, with all kinds of weapons. They had already hurt hundreds of police officers were maimed and hurt, right? And remember, they had these riot guards that are like 20 pounds. If you can picture what a riot guard looks like, and they're like 20 pounds. Imagine holding that thing for 2 hours straight. Try it. See how you feel, So I heard all those stories and realized, wow, I was so lucky. But during the time, what's weird is you're so on adrenaline, you don't really have time to be afraid.
Right.
So those were the broad strokes of the day.
The feeling, though, today you must have of our president, not ours, to be pardoning these men mostly, to be wanting to give them money for, they're coming out of jail, where we need to give them money because, those poor things were incarcerated. Okay. It has to be beyond infuriating to have been in it. I'm infuriated as an American, but for somebody whose name was on a list to be killed, like nobody else. If I were to make a list of who I wanted to kill, and then that got out and I had guns and I was storming their place of business, I would be put in prison.
Yeah. I think, at the end of the day, I try not to think about that, first of all, because I can't fix it, right? I can't change history, and I can't fix what he's done. I do believe in, like, whether you believe in the universe, Mother Nature, God, or whatever you believe in, I believe all of those forces do believe in justice at some point. And there's this other thing called our human ego that will save all of us. So if you think about it, Trump and his Project 2025 gang all want to get rid of the courts, all of the judicial system. They want to get rid of Congress, and they want to get rid of a lot of things, right? But here's the thing. Other people have egos too, and they like their power. So I really don't think all of those Republican leaders are going to be cool with, hey, I'll be out of a job in Congress. So their ego is going to kick in, and the entities will survive. I don't think John Roberts, as the Chief Justice, is going to be like, oh, cool, you want to get rid of the charts so we have a more conservative world? I don't think he's going to do that, Mm-hmm. So I am praying for everybody, whether I agree with them or not, everybody's ego kicks in. Because I do think that that's just a human, visceral condition that will help us in the long run, in addition to everything that the activist community is doing.
Yeah. I love that because I do agree. I think, I mean, we're looking at people who've been in office for their entire careers. This is all they know how to do.
Yeah.
They definitely don't
They
want
don't need
their
their
jobs
power
to go
taken away.
away.
So
Yeah.
egos are a bad thing and a good thing sometimes, right?
Yes. Which is why it helps when we call and say, we're going to flip your seat. So
Yeah. Like,
listen up.
game on, baby.
Yeah. You are such a force as a mother, a human being, a woman, a citizen. I'm in awe. I am so glad that I got to read your book, that we've gotten to know each other and have this conversation, because I just think you're a major ass kicker that we need more of.
Well, it is funny. You do have to follow your passions, and that's one of my goals right now too. Is I'm doing all of these little projects I really enjoy, and I'm doing a lot more. I always said I think I made a better activist than I did member of Congress, but I am trying to do all of the things that really light me up right now. So thank you. It was a delightful conversation. Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
Thank you so much. And I can't wait for the next book. You'll have to come
Oh,
back.
I'll send you a note. I'm heading towards the end of writing it, and I'm hoping to have it out next year. We'll see how it goes. It's my first novel. It's a fiction,
Oh,
so
even more fun.
yeah, crazy.
Yes. Oh,
Very
good.
hard,
You have a lot you can pull from.
sadly.
Thank you so much, Marie. I really appreciate you.
So good to be with you. Have a great day.
Friends, we have our to-do list set out for us. It is time to call the Republican leaders and make our voices heard, in addition to making our 5 calls. We need to speak up. We need to share our stories. We need to do all of the things. And if you are encouraged to run for office, do it. There are many of us who are going to support you and promote you. Join different networks. There's Emerge, there's Feminist, there's Persist. All of these different networks come with a community of supporters, and we all need as much support as we can now. I loved getting to talk to Marie, to hear firsthand what it is like to be a representative, what it's like to have gone through such a crisis and to have managed it. And don't forget, she's a mom and a wife too. She's not just sticking up for every one of us, but for her own family as well. I'm so grateful I got to meet Marie, to hear her story, and that she shared so much great, valuable information with all of us. Go pick up the phone and make a difference.